best thing you weren't supposed to overhear. Story 1. In New York one time, I was at a shop that sold macarons, and there are two cute blonde girls behind the counter. One says to the other in French, "He's really cute." The other says, "Yeah, he's nice." I don't say anything. She asks me what I want in English. I respond to her in fluent French with the biggest eating grin on my face ever. She starts blushing like crazy. Then I pay and run out because I'm afraid of talking to girls. Story 2. While taking the bus to college, I noticed a group of 4 chicks IDs say they were around the age of 19 to 20 looking at me. So being the creep that I am, I lowered the volume of my iPod. They were talking about how tall I am, 64, and then one mentioned I must have a big penis. Little do they know. Story 3. I saw one of my good friends, and also one of the more attractive girls I knew, walking and talking with a mutual friend of ours, so I started to pick up my speed to catch up to them, and when I'm getting closer, I hear her say, "Yeah." When Waffles wears that green shirt, I almost have to restrain myself from jumping on him in class. Wore that green shirt at the next party we were both at. She didn't restrain herself, giggity. Story 4. My girlfriend thought I was still asleep one morning and quietly said, "I love you," while getting up and leaving. Something she had never said before. I played along so as not to be awkward. I married her 4 years later. Story 5. I overheard a construction worker on his lunch break quietly singing Bohemian Rhapsody to himself in Gonzo's voice. I don't think I'll ever hear anything better. Story 6. Olivia Wilde talking about blowjobs at the table behind me. While I had dinner with my girlfriend and her mom, I hope that I earned some boyfriend points for not getting distracted by that. Story 7. Bureau. One time, we were having a party at the frat house, and there were these 2 girls arguing, and they were arguing over me. So they decided they would have a threesome. It was chill. Story 8. In 4th grade, some girls in my class were talking about boys they liked. The teacher came over and told them that I was the real catch, and they should be into me. TLDR, my 4th grade teacher had the hots for me. Story 9. This kind of isn't like hearing, but I got on my best friend's computer to look something up, and the last thing he had Googled was I'm in love with my best friend, and now we've been dating for 2 years. I think about it sometimes, and it still makes me smile. Story 10. When I was 14 and wanted to take a very green horse outside for the first time on a rather secluded and unfamiliar trail, I heard another horse person ask my instructor why he said it was okay. He said, "It's because she's fearless." That was awesome. Edit: a green horse is one that is untrained or hasn't been working very long. For those of you that are confused, my horse lingo, sorry. Story 11. At a party at a friend's house. Went to use the bathroom, but it's occupied, so I was waiting outside the door. Inside were 2 girls talking about how they both wanted me, then joking around about having a threesome. Needless to say, they were both embarrassed when they opened the door, and I was standing there with a smug grin on my face. Story 12. I once took a class in marine biology on an island off the coast of Thailand, Malaysia. Part of the course involved making field observations, and my classmates started having to take turns going out to find me when it was time to start a lesson or eat or something, because that observation time was probably the most interesting and exciting and precious opportunity I've had in my life, and I never wanted to stop on time. After the course was over, my classmates and I compiled our notes because another group was coming to the island and would pick up where we left off. But the new course director forgot or didn't know he was supposed to take the file we made to the island, a trip that took a long time by boat. And so I was appointed to read our most important notes over the phone to a friend who would write them down by hand. This island was pre-internet in 2004, but our school had a satellite phone. So I'm going through like 120 pages of handwritten notes, reading them slowly enough for my friend to write them down and trying to decide what not to read. And all of a sudden I realize I'm holding the notebook pages with all of my classmates' names and all of the grades for our course on them. And I had gotten perfect marks in everything and had a little asterisk next to my name with a note saying something about how the faculty might want to talk to me about staying on with them or linking me up with another research organization. And not dumb, but actually I really am kind of dumb. Seeing that was one of the few times in my life that I actually felt proud of myself. I sometimes wonder whether someone left those pages in there for me to see intentionally to boost my confidence, since somehow it fell to me to read the file over the phone. But regardless, it has made a huge difference in my life. I'm about 2 months away from defending my PhD thesis in biology, and I might not have tried for it without seeing that information. TLDR, I saw something a biology professor wrote about me that I wasn't supposed to see, and it helped convince me I might be good enough to make biology my life's work. Story 13, maybe not best, but surely puzzling. I was a guide at the International Orthopedic Congress a few years ago. It's a pretty boring job consisting that night of standing in a mostly empty hallway to direct guests to the dining area as they stepped off the elevator. Since this was not the main way to the dining area, there were very few people passing my way. Then one time, the elevator opens, out step about half a dozen orthopedic specialists, and one man delivers the line. So I gave the man breasts, What else could I do? And everyone else laughs hysterically. Ever since then, I've been trying to figure out the setup to that joke. Story 14. A few years ago, I was at a restaurant with my parents. A family with a little girl walked past our table. The little girl turned around and looked at me when she sat down. Turning back to her parents, she said ecstatically, "Look, Mom, a princess." Story 15. When I was in 6th grade, my parents were planning this big surprise ski trip, and I heard them talking about ski gear and plane tickets. So I knew something was up and had an idea. But the day came when I thought it was, went to school like usual, and nothing happened. I was a bit disappointed. Halfway through the day, though, they picked me up and had already packed my stuff, and we went straight to the airport. Pretty good surprise, D. Story 16. A few years ago, I was walking through a grocery store. There were 2 kids goofing around near me, and I hear one of them shout out, "Oh my God, she's so hot." We made eye contact, and then he looked really, really embarrassed. Either way, it was nice to hear. Story 17. Not overheard exactly, but my first girlfriend had a calendar in her room, and one day I noticed that the day of our first shy little pseudo-date was marked coffee with Occam's Machete 3. Story 18. I'm walking past 2 girls talking about needing to exercise when I heard this. Even my shadow looks like, you need to go on a run when even your shadow looks like. Story 19. I was on a road trip with 2 of my closest friends. We took turns driving, and it was my turn to be in the back seat. I was looking out the window at the beautiful day and singing along to the music, not really thinking about anything and just enjoying the moment. Out of the corner of my ear, I hear one friend say to the other, "Look at how happy she is." Story 22. Girls talking about me. One that I currently liked and one that I had a crush on for years. There's something about him. Yeah, I think it is his smile. Story 21. TIL and a very rough TLDR. Worst things you weren't supposed to overhear are commonly stories from families. Best things you weren't supposed to overhear are commonly stories from members of the opposite. Story 22. Overheard my blood-sucking girlfriend telling my friend whom she was at the time cheating on me with on my birthday that she was planning on breaking up with me soon, but didn't have the heart to do so because I could have never seen it coming and was too immature to deal with it. So I hid behind a corner, texted her, "I'm breaking up with you." And him, "I ran over your sister's bunny last year, waited for the text to reach, walked by, farted troll-faced, and did this all the way home." Story 23. A long time, I was hanging out at the SNL dress rehearsal. Dr. Dre was the musical guest, and Eminem and Snoop Dogg were backing him up. My friend and I were just sitting and talking. And behind me, I hear Suzanne, "I'd like you to meet my girlfriend, Bridget. Bridget, I'd like you to meet my girlfriend, Susanna. I've been meaning for you two to meet for a long time." We turn around, and it was Eminem with a girl in each arm. We were very impressed. Story 24. It might be the worst thing I wasn't supposed to overhear, but the best thing that I overheard, because otherwise I probably would have given a hot French, if you see Candace, my phone number. I was in a cafe in Versailles, where I had been studying for about half a year. I was speaking in English to my father, who was visiting for just 2 days. We were perceived to be typical stupid American tourists. We are American, but not dumb, and we weren't tourists, at least not that day. I overheard a group of teenage boys talking about how dumb and easy American girls were, that we always put out because we're a bunch of dumb sluts. These guys were dicks, not at all the average nice folks I was meeting at school and work. They were going on and on for at least half an hour about slutty American and what my naked body probably looked like in painfully descriptive detail. All very lovely discussion. Idiots were arguing over who could get my phone number and which one would be better and first. One approached me. In English, he said, "I can't help but notice that such a lovely young American might need a native French tour guide. I'd love to show you around the neighborhood." Nice and loud in French, I said, "Plenty of us aren't easy or stupid. Go yourself." My dad, who didn't understand the exchange but could tell what had happened, at least vaguely, said, "I've never been more proud of you." Story 25. I was in my bedroom with the door closed, so it looked like I wasn't home. Now, there's been a significant amount of people who lived in this room before I moved in, one right after the other. My 2 roommates were in the kitchen that is right outside my bedroom, and one says, "Where is my name here dash?" Anyway, she's the best roommate we've ever had. Story 26. I overheard my girlfriend and her best friend talking about me at a party. I'm a pretty straight-edge guy and known for being a sweetheart, the kind of guy that always gets friend-zoned. So people don't expect much from me when it comes to parties and sexy times. My GFS best friend asked her if I was any good in bed because it seemed like I'd be the kind of guy who gets intimidated at the thought of and or wouldn't know what I'm doing. I then overhear my GF talk about how awesome I am in bed and how surprisingly good I was for my first time and how I've only been getting better. This conversation went on for about 5 minutes and consisted of her raving about my skills. It ended with my GF saying that I was the best she's ever had. Big confidence boost for me. TLDR overheard my GF tell her best friend about how I'm the best she's ever had. Story 27, my niece was just a baby, and my brother was in another room talking with some family members about who she looked like. Someone commented that she resembled me a bit, and my brother said they would be lucky if it turned out that way. Story 28, similar to the Opie. This was told to me by an ex I used to work with. Apparently after I went home for the day, two of the project leads in the office were talking. Project lead 1, dude, Pig Charmer is a genius. Project lead 2, yeah, but his code is sometimes messy. Project lead 1, it works fine, right? Project lead 2, well, Project lead 1, shut up. Felt so good. I know I'm not a genius. I just have good work ethic, but it'll let people believe I'm a genius anyway. Story 29. I overheard my parents were getting us Game Boy Colors and Pokemon for trying so hard in class when I was about 10. Best day ever, think I'm in love with Daphne. 3U2. Story 30. My kid has always been pretty mediocre when it comes to sports. It's not that he's bad. He's just a little smaller and shorter than most kids his age. They hand out jersey numbers according to size, and he is always the shortest kid. Whether it's baseball, soccer, or basketball, I always feel like he's the underdog when he plays sports. People don't expect much from him, so he is always praised by his own team. When he does anything, being able to keep up with the team is something to be proud of. But I wanted him to excel, even if it was just once. So this last year he was playing soccer, and the coach discovered he made a pretty good goalie, and so started putting him in the position more and more. The team dominated most of the season until we got to this team that was simply better than ours. After a very intense game, they finally beat us 3-2. It was our only loss and ended our perfect season. A weekend tournament comes up, and we have to play the same team again, this time with certified refs in a sanctioned tournament. Unlike the previous game against this team, my coach decides to put my kid in as goalie for the entire game. The other team is even better than the last time we played them. They have complete control of the ball in the field. Something strange happens this time. My kid is blocking almost everything that is coming at him, shot after shot. He is stopping them from scoring. At halftime, parents from our team are telling us what a good job he is doing, and one says that he is the only reason we still have a chance against this team. As nice as what they're saying is, all I'm hearing is, wow, your kid typically sucks, but today he is playing as well as the rest of the kids on the team normally play. I know that's not what they're saying, but it's hard to be objective as a parent or as a teammate's parent. It looked like he was doing great, but I kind of just wanted to hear it from someone more impartial. Last quarter of the game, and we were up 3-2. My kid is sitting in the goal, and here comes a kid with a perfect chance to take a shot. He boots the ball. My kid dives and saves it just in time. The crowd goes wild. At this point, I overhear a parent from the opposing team say, "This is bullshit. Get rid of that goalie," so we could score some points. I could hear a mixture of the finale music from Karate Kid and Rocky at the same time. My kid, the run of the team, is playing so good that parents from the other team are actually cussing him out. This was one of the happiest moments of my life. He did block more shots, and the team did go on to win. The coach hugged him and swung him around, and the team lifted him up in the air. Story 31, my brother's now ex-wife years ago, and her friend got me is so hot. I want him so bad. Wife, yeah, I definitely picked the wrong brother. Story 32, I overheard the TA and professor of my lab course say that I would be a good candidate for the physics PhD program. About a week later, the professor asked me if I would apply, and I said I wasn't interested. Fast forward a year, and I'm starting to think I should. Story 33, while I was in the bathroom, I overheard my friends talking to my father about getting beat up bullying in middle school. And one of them said to Dad, "But we don't have to worry about that, because Jew Bacchus is one of the toughest kids at school." I had no idea this was my reputation, and my confidence shot up. Story 34, helping out my grandma. Her friend came over, and they were out talking. At one point, she said he's my favorite one in the grandkid bunch, and he's got good looks to boot. Made me smile anyways. Story 35, I was friends with this girl and wanted to ask her out, but I have tiny testicles. Anyway, during night of drinking, I overheard her talking with some random who, having larger than me, asked her out. She turned him down, and not knowing that I was in the vicinity, I heard him ask her why not. And her response was that she wanted to date someone else. She gave a rough description of that someone else, and it was obvious that she was referring to me. I asked her out a couple days later, and yes, Reddit, she was hot. Story 36, my mom talking to my dad over the phone around Christmas time. I couldn't find the game he wanted at Toys R Us, so I got him Zelda Ocarina of Time instead. I was a Sega kid growing up, and I had never played a Zelda game before. How my video game ignorant mom knew to pick that game is a mystery to this day. It must have been fate. Story 37, I used to work in a home for people with physical disabilities and got to know an elderly couple resident there. Although my job didn't involve direct contact with residents, they quickly recognized a new face since they were in the same environment day in, day out, and introduced themselves. So I would always take a few minutes to chat with them if I saw them around. One day after such a chat, I excused myself to get back to work, and on my way upstairs heard their conversation. Start, she's lovely. Isn't she? Yes, she's lovely. Easily made my day. Always a nice change to hear a compliment behind your back. Story 38. I had been dating my girlfriend for a while, and we went for lunch with a friend and his girlfriend. They grabbed a table, and we went to grab the food as they chatted. I walked back first with drinks, and overheard them before they saw me. Friend's girlfriend, I love my S shirts. I like the way they smell. Girlfriend, I do too. I steal mines and wear them to bed. TLDR, my sweat is tiger blood. Story 39. One of my favorite things to do is to say something honestly nice about someone as they're walking away. The idea is that they think I didn't intend for them to hear it. Happened to me once and made my day. So I decided to make it part of my routine. Story 40. It was like 3 days after my girlfriend had broken up with me, and I was sulking in my room. My roommate had one of his buddies over, and they were chilling in the living room. I had met this guy a couple of times and smoked some trees with him, but otherwise we were not particularly close. I went to the bathroom and heard my roommate's friend say, "Is there something wrong with Biasi 3? My roommate explained how I was dumped, and his friend said, "Oh, that's terrible, but he's a cool, good-looking guy, and I'm sure he'll be back on his feet soon." That was really just what I needed to hear. Story 41. At a family function, I saw an aunt turn to her husband and whisper divorce court in a creepy, deep voice. Ever since then, that has been her nickname for when she's not around. Story 42. My sister is 5 years older than me, and when she was a teenager, she saw me as an annoying little girl who would always go to our mother whenever she would do or say something bad. As we both got a little older, she started to be nicer to me, and I was thrilled because my sister was like a superstar to me. She was smart, beautiful, she had a wonderful boyfriend, and everything was more exciting when I was with her. But the memory of how she had been a little bit mean to me was still fresh, and I didn't know if things would go back the way they were before. One day, I think I was 12, I was in my bedroom while my sister was in the kitchen with her mother, right below my room. I could hear everything they were saying through the floor. My sister said before, every time she talked to me, I just didn't care. It was so uninteresting. But now, I don't know, it's completely different. I feel like the two of us are really connected. The first part wasn't so nice, but the second one convinced me that my sister could become the best friend I've ever had. And that's exactly what happened. Story 43. TLDR. 45 of comments are of people overhearing others' usually attractive opposite, saying the commenter is attractive. 45 of comments are of people overhearing others saying the commenter is intelligent. 10 of comments are of people hearing something awkward. Story 44. In HS, I was a track runner sprinter. At a track meet, I overheard runners from another team talking about their friend. Yeah, but he had a race against haploid cell. Felt good to have respect from the other teams. Side story, at the same meet, overheard a relay team say, "I heard the anchor leg for haploid cells team isn't even that fast." I was the anchor leg. That was enough rage fuel for me to run probably the fastest leg of the 4x1 in my career. Story 45. OMG. You aren't going to believe me. 5-5. I came 5 times girl I hooked up with trying to make her friend jealous the morning after. Lies, I assure you. But the jealous friend told a few girls around school. Good stuff. Life-changing comment. College life. Anyway. Story 46. I was seated at my desk at work at a call center, and my supervisor was helping another agent on the other side of the aisle separated by a divider that doesn't block any sound. I heard him say, "I'm not sure. He'll get Code Marshank to help you when he gets back from the bathroom. He's my go-to guy for these kind of issues." Heck yeah. Story 47. My best friend was driving me the long way home really late at night after we had gone to a bar. I was drunk out of my mind and falling asleep in the passenger's seat. She was dozing off and struggling to stay awake at the wheel. I didn't overhear it. I was knocked out, but she embarrassedly confessed to me later that when she was falling asleep, she slapped herself in the face and said aloud, "This is your best friend in the world you're driving. Wake up." It's weird, but that is one of the most touching things I've ever heard. We've been best friends for years, but we never show affection. We always just take the out of each other and joke around. I was pretty moved. Story 48. Last night, my dad was talking to my family about me. He said something along the lines of, "It's great. He picks up magazines now and looks at the light in the pictures and analyzes them. He has a whole new artistic set of eyes." With me being a photographer and having just left UCSB to go to photography school, it meant a lot to me. Edit clarity. Story 49. In 11th grade, 2 friends started dating and were extremely self-conscious about the fact that they were having in the same minute after I logged into AIM and messaged them. The guy told me, "What should we tie me to?" And the girl said, "I don't really like handcuffs." I love the AIM feature, where when someone new messaged you, it automatically placed their window on front of whatever you were doing. Story 53. Really cute girls at a movie theater stop me and comment on my Minecraft shirt score. I see them later at GameStop buying Pokemon score. And a third, when I say, "This is the 3rd time I've seen you 3 tonight." One says, "Yeah, because she's been stalking you," and the cutest of the 3, loudly and embarrassedly, says, "I was not stalking him." Story 51. I think we should ask Lumberjack Ninja for help. He seems like he knows the most about this, and he's not even a CS. I'm a physicist who does code. It's been a hobby since high school, but I tried doing a year of it as my major in school and realized that while I enjoy writing code and thinking about algorithms, it's not something I wanted to focus my entire college career on. Story 52. Once I was running laps shirtless somewhere when I passed a couple of ladies walking in the same direction. After a pause, I heard one of them say, "He looks like he should be in movies." Made me feel great, even if there's a chance they weren't talking about me. Story 53. This actually happened not an hour ago. I was riding the bus home and started cleaning my lawnmower with a handkerchief I keep handy. I always pause my music in my headphones when getting on the bus, so as to be polite to the bus driver. But this time, I kept the music paused even though my headphones stayed on. An intimidating, well-built fellow who I often see but have never conversed with was sitting a few seats away and had stricken a conversation with another passenger. Yeah, I've seen him on this bus a lot. He seems pretty attached to that longboard. The other passenger responds. He looks content enough. Yeah, he's a master at disassembling and reassembling it too. I saw him rip apart the whole thing, give it tune-up, and throw the whole thing back together in around 5 stops time. I hadn't known that I had done it in 5 bus stops, but I was instantly proud. I turned around and thanked him for the compliment and ended up chatting with them both for the remainder of the ride. TLDR, a burly man complimented me on my mechanical skills while he thought I couldn't hear him. Story 54. I used to work at a shitty fast food place with a drive-thru. I was working said drive-thru one day when an arguing couple came through. Most people don't know this, but when you get within range of that little speaker box on the bottom of the menu, the drive-thru worker can hear you via headset, and most of the backline people who make the food can hear you via speakers. Even if you haven't been addressed or are on hold, the man asked for a moment to decide, and I told him to let me know when he was ready to order. He started suggesting items to his wife, who was shooting them down one after the other really harshly. He finally says, "Maybe you shouldn't be so negative," and she responds with, "Well, maybe you shouldn't have slept with my sister, Minio." 0 expressions were exchanged between myself and the back line. Then we burst into laughter. Thank God my mic was off. Story 55. I was walking to class one day, and I saw 2 comically fat guys walking toward me. I overheard one of the guys saying, "Yeah, cake is okay, but I think pie is better." Really made my week. Story 56. Person 1. Why do black people distrust Ronald Reagan? Person 2. Because he called them welfare queens / social programs and attempted to own the Black Panthers while he was governor of California. Also, he was white. Story 57. While camping for the first time. Isn't he doing great for the first time? He's absolutely amazing. I'm really impressed. Such an amazing guy to hang around with. It was my turn to take the canoe on my own, and I set out on the lake before my buddies had loaded up the other after the portage. They didn't think I could hear, but sound travels rather well. It made my week. Story 58. Overheard a girl talking about a guy she had been with. I should get a trophy for handling that. It was like 7 inches as she sticks up her hands to convey the length, about 1.5 feet apart. I fell over laughing. Story 59. I used to live with this super hot girl until one day that I heard her masturbating and moaning. Obviously, she was making those sounds so I could hear, so I walked to her room with a raging. Story 60. I went to Mexico with some friends in 09. We were all at a secluded little beach when my buddy and his girlfriend went for a walk down the beach. A little while goes by, and the rest of us are getting ready to leave, so I volunteer to go find them. It's a beach with some sweet sand dunes, and just as I get to the top of one, I see them at the bottom just in time to see my buddy drop to one knee and ask his girlfriend to marry her. She said yes. They hadn't seen me, so I backed away like a bro and let them enjoy the moment. Story 61 for me, it was when one of my best friends, who is also the girl I've been in love with since forever, talked with her friend that she needs to figure a way to forget about the feeling she has for me. I was dating another girl at the time. A couple of days later, I broke up with my girlfriend, told her I couldn't continue with her when I knew my heart belongs and always with someone else. Then I told my dream girl how I feel about her and that I will never like anyone the way that I like her. We've been dating for 3 months now, and these have been the best 3 months of my life. Story 62. At my grandfather's funeral, my dad was there with 4 of his brothers. They needed another pallbearer, and my dad asked my Uncle Carm if it was okay if I was the 6th guy. My uncle replied, "Yeah, it should be him. He's a man now." During a real shitty day, it was nice to have that little moment. Story 63. I once overheard 3 girls talking about how they thought I was very good looking. The funny part is, the reason I overheard them was because they were right around the corner from where I was puking. Story 64. When my stats prof was handing out graded tests, someone asked what was the highest score. He said 98. Kid says, "Damn, what got that grade?" I looked down at my test. "Yeah, this has nothing to do with my drinking problem. This was your computer's fault." Woman on cell phone at a grocery store I used to work at. Story 65. My friend was in a long-distance relationship with a woman he met in Japan. We're American. I was at his apartment, and he wanted to chat with her over Skype, but he also wanted to hang out with us in the living room area. I told him he could use my laptop instead of retreating to his room to use his desktop. Well, after a bit, he retires to his room, presumably for some private time with his GF, his roommate, and I start to hear pings going off on my laptop, and we have no idea what's going on. It turns out Head left himself logged into Skype on my computer, and their conversation was popping up in the window. They were already well into their Skype chat, so after shooting his roommate a rather evil grin, I typed in something to the effect of "I want to lick your keeping," with the natural flow of the conversation. After a couple seconds, my friend came out of his room and gave me a look that was a mixture of surprise, chagrin, and bemusement that pretty much said it all. Once I stopped laughing uncontrollably, I politely logged him out of Skype. TLDR, I had brief Skype with my friend's girlfriend. Remember to log off public computers, kids. Story 66. Back when AOL IM was popular, if you were typing and someone IM'd you, the IM window popped up, and now you were typing it instead. Quite annoying, especially if you're typing fast and not paying attention. I sent a message to a female friend who I was kind of talking to about dating again. We had dated in the past. And I received this prompt half-message reply: remember that he's big, but I don't remember just how big it is, followed by "OH my god. That was not meant to go to you, of course." Immediately calmed her down. Ha ha, you were talking about my penis. Story 67. It was in high school. A really cute girl and I were wandering around after school replacing recycling bins for one of those weird volunteer projects. We finally meet back up with the main group. I tell her they're going to go back and get my sign-off sheet signed. As I turn around, I hear, "Is that the dark and handsome one?" Not sure if it was a joke or a mistake, but I was very flattered and surprised. I mean, at that point, all I did was play Gunbound and Maple Street. I have no clue what never happened since. Story 68. I was walking to class, and my IT teacher came out of his room with another teacher, and me and friends caught the last word of the conversation. Literally, the door opens, and all we hear is pole dancing in a very heavy Welsh accent. Story 69. One of my roommates, the one I share a room with when he's in-state military, sleep talks profusely, often yelling the words rather loudly. I've lost track of all of the amazing he says, but ones that stick out are abortion clinic. Dude, you can't let her jump from there. She's too much of a noob to land right. Of course, the pro athletes would dress up as Ninja Turtles, and in no miss, for a human, you have disproportionately long nipples. Story 70. They will never know that we were at Disney World. The story behind that was I was like 11 years old, and my dad was having meetings in Ottawa. We live in a different province, so the plan was for us to go on vacation to Ottawa and chill. Then when we got there, my parents said that our dad had an urgent meeting come up, and we had to fly down to Florida. I really don't know why they bothered with that, since I really don't know why my dad would have had business meetings there for. So we ended up in Florida, and then they told us to get ready for Disney World. Story 71. Crowded gym, and I'm working out on the elliptical right next to this incredibly hot chick and her friend. I try not to notice them and just focus on my workout until the conversation went. Hot girl next to me starts talking about this huge that she's dating who treats her like, and the night before he was literally forcing her head down to give him. She said that she fought with him for a little bit, but then ended up giving him a hand job. Other hot girl starts agreeing, as if this is acceptable behavior, of course. You had to give him something. I almost stopped working out and introduced myself, but am forever alone. From walking in the parking lot, I overhear 3 girls talking. Girl 1, okay? So, is it bad that I don't look back when I reverse my car out of the parking spot? Girl 2, OMG, I don't either. Girl 1, 2, 3, giggle, giggle. Some joke about women drivers.